This is Amazing Heroes number 33 with a cover date of October 15th, 1983, and a cover story on the comic Mars. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I wasn't sure I was going to get much out of this, to be honest, but then when I flipped through it the first time, I was surprised by how much there was. So let's get straight to the news flashes, because there's a lot of fun stuff in there. First though, in your future, Alien Legion. Yes, the Alien Legion series starts right here. Copyright Marvel Comics Group, of course. They don't make log lines like this anymore. They don't make good copywritten advertising. I'm trying to get this thing to sit flat for a second. It's not going to work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a remote control to hold it flat so I can read this. This is what we're down to here, folks. Footsloggers and soldiers of fortune, priests and poets, killers and cads. They fight for a future galarchy? I don't know. For cash, a cause, for the thrill of adventure. Legionnaires live rough and they die hard, tough as tungsten and loyal to the dirty end. Now that's a comic I want to read. That's a movie trailer that makes me want to watch the movie. That's some serious sci-fi fantasy stuff. Marvel was making the magic on sale in late December. This has I'm not sure exactly how the cover dates worked for Amazing Heroes, if they worked like comics where it would be out a couple months ahead of that date. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Someday I'll have to look that up. So let's see what's going on here. This one is of interest. The Marvel Auditions book is a new project that will give aspiring artists, inkers, colorists, and letterers a chance to practice and work up samples of artwork. This is the Marvel Tryout book. It originally had the title of the Marvel Auditions book. I think the Marvel Tryout book works even better. There will be several pages of uncolored artwork by John Romita Jr. and Al Milgrom, matching scripts for letterers to work with, penciled artwork for inkers to work with, etc., etc. Jim Shooter doing a plot, all that good stuff. I'll actually tell a Spider-Man story remains unfinished, and Marvel says anyone who can get Spidey out of this plot is not only a good writer, but a master plotter. So there's a good pat on the back for you. And of course, I believe we mentioned this not that long ago in a different video. Mark Bagley was the big reader there, Doug Hazelwood, Robin Riggs, and a couple other people I'm just blanking on right now. Some people you have heard of did come out through that Marvel Tryout book. Thriller, which, again, is a series I referenced recently, DC's Baxter comic, because they're still obsessed with paper quality in 1983, will be using a slightly different coloring process in future issues. Tom Zuko, who has colored every issue but one of the series, has requested that DC allow him to use percentages of black in order to follow through on the dark, moody aspect of the book. Now, I know Thriller lasted 12 issues. I don't know which issue this change happened with. Someday, if I buy the issues and there are sets available on eBay and I keep going to press the button and keep holding back, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll get there. This makes me more interested in it because I like to see the different coloring processes of the day. I imagine this is so he can have more sort of shades of gray area and not just solid black lines. You know, hopefully some point I will see. Here's a good one. In fact, they mentioned this on the page before. This looks familiar. Michael Golden's artwork on the 1984 Batman Special, formerly the 1983 Batman Annual. Because the book was running so late, it ceased to become an annual. It had to become a special the next year, and they brought on Mike DiCarlo to ink it. So that's how you save the deadline there. And here are the 1982 Eagle Award nominations. This was the British version of the Comic Buyer's Guide Awards. The Eisners weren't around yet, but any good names in here to deal with? All the usual stuff. Frank Miller and Daredevil. Bruce Jones was nominated for Favorite Writer, along with Frank Miller and Marv Wolfman. Favorite Singular Continued Story, Daredevil, Legion of Superheroes, Wolverine 1-4. Favorite New Comic Title, Camelot 3000. There you go. They won some awards. I knew they would for that book. Oh, this is a good one. Their silly cover of the month. The Unfortunate X-Men. Yeah, that might not work today as well. However, it is a standard comic book trope to have men become women and women become men for the sake of, some cheap laughs, I guess, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I remember when Youngblood did it, for goodness sake. Todd Nauck drew that rather well. Saber, Nemo, American Flag, all that good stuff. There's an ad for the new Green Lantern. He's coming for you. Part of the new DC, There's No Stopping Us Now. They were really working on that There's No Stopping Us Now thing with DC. I think they got stopped. So here is the Mars comic, another comic I've never read. I remember seeing an article about it, I think in Comic Scene magazine around 1989 or 90 for some reason. I don't even know why. Would have been long gone by then, but I don't know much about it or how long it lasted. I skimmed through this article, and I'm kind of curious. It's Mark Wheatley and Mark Hempel. Came out through First Comics. Mars takes place in a near future in which experimentation with the mind had advanced far beyond what it is today. Our protagonist is Morgana Trace, a 13-year-old girl who assists her father, a renowned mind specialist, in his work. When an assassin kills Morgana's father, severing her spine and leaving her paralyzed from the waist down in the process, she continues her father's studies, develops a method of linking her mind with the computer, which leads her to developing a method of moving her dead legs through a computer link-up that influences the muscles externally. And it goes on and on from there. This is also, by the way, 1983, the early days of home computers. So, fairly futuristic concept for the time. We've gotten to the point now where we have computers that can sort of stimulate nerves to bring some limbs, not necessarily back to life, but restore some feeling in some cases. You know, the future was now, even in 1983. I like the sort of cartoony art. It looks like fun. I like a good science fiction series. Again, I'll have to check eBay and see what's available. Here's an article about black characters in comics, and they managed to find 4 or 5. Storm, Iron Man, Rhodey, Cyborg, Invincible, Kid, from the Legion of Superheroes, okay, and of course Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau. One hopes that in time places can be found for worthy characters like the Black Panther, Giant Man, and Jon Stewart. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And that DC will discover that black women do exist. But all things considered, it looks like comics are discovering that the destiny of black heroes is to stand as equals in the 4-color pursuit of truth and justice. So there you go. Someone was looking on the bright side in 1983. I have to think you'd be more impressed with what you see today than what you saw back then. The review column section here includes a review of Omega Men, number 1 through 5. Again, mentioned in a previous video when the first couple issues came out. And I just scanned through to see what he had to say about Lobo, not knowing, of course, at that point, what a huge breakout character Lobo would become. He didn't really like the series too much, to be honest. However, there is one mention of Lobo. Anyone notice that Lobo the bounty hunter looks and acts an awful lot like Lunatic from the Defenders? No. I didn't, because I don't know the Defenders at all. So, it's of the time, I guess, but there's the reference for you. And that's about it. There's the potpourri from Jim Korkis. Nothing too exciting to talk about there. Redeemer by Joe Kubert. I think 12 issues long. Again, one of those things I'll have to check on eBay to see if it's worth reading. But that is Amazing Heroes number 33. Some fun stuff in there. Let me know, did you read Mars? Is it worth reading? Let me know down below, and thank you for watching.